John Barrick from Lincoln, Illinois. This is a 1982 359 Peterbilt.
Have you had it for a long time, or the family's had it for a while?
No, we've had it for, I think we bought this in 2007, 2006 or 7, somewhere in there. Had looked all over the country because I wanted a 2-stick 359. Just got to be cool, right?
And it's a standard hood too, right? Not an extended
standard hood.
So that's extra cool.
Yep. So I looked all over. Just got back from out west looking at one that was just a total piece of garbage. And a friend of mine owned this truck, and I'd been trying to buy it for years. I ran into his son, a mutual customer. I said, "Hey, is PD for sale? Is your dad ever going to sell that thing?" He says, he was just talking about that the other day. So I went back to the shop and was talking to our mechanic, and he said, "Well, you go get the check. I'll go get the case Old Milwaukee," because that's what the guy drank. Scott Worth, he was from Beeson.
To try to butter him up a little bit.
And so we went to his farm and had a few beers and bought a truck. So
it didn't take too much convincing.
No. And it had been sitting for some time. It was a truck that he'd ran the West Coast with weekly, updated to a little more modern truck, better fuel mileage, and a lot more room.
Had he had it since new?
No, he had bought it used as well. And that's where I lost the story. I don't know where he got it from. So we took it in the shop, took it apart, fixed it up, and changed it to our colors. And we never actually worked the truck. We've always just, it's just pulled antique trucks and cars, and it's always been a toy for us.
Other than the color, did you change it much?
Nope. No, same wheelbase that he had.
Same little, no, there's not a spread. It's just because there's no, is there a spread here?
No.
No, just because there's no fender, right, over the back. What about this wood deck plate here?
So that kind of came with, you remember the Raider that you did the tour on? We were trying to figure out what we were going to do for a deck plate on it. Joe, the same guy in the shop, he's like, "Oh, your grandpa would have thrown an old piece of plywood up there." So I'd put on, I walked over on that truck, got a piece of dry van trailer floor, and like, oh, we could build our own wooden deck plate. And so that's just kind of been our stick, I guess, is all of our antique trucks. We do a wooden deck plate on them now, and some of the work trucks too.
So did you just want a 359 to have a 359?
Pretty much.
I'll put a link to that Raider video in here so people can see it, and in the description. But that's a truck that you've had in the family a long time. Yep. Did you have a Peterbilt in the family too?
No, we had Diamond Rios. We were a big Diamond Rio family, and that Raider we had bought brand new. My dad had bought brand new. Then when they went out of business, switched to Internationals, a few Fords, a few Chevys. Never had Pete's.
No, any sort of loyalty to one thing? Get a little sampling of everything?
Yeah, mostly Internationals and Diamond Rios. Probably the most loyal until the 90s, and then we really became a Freightliner fleet in the early 90s. But I always wanted a Pete because they just look cooler.
And this definitely looks like it was pretty tricked out. Is this just something decorative?
That is a pickup, like it would go on top bed of a bed rail of a pickup to decorate it.
Oh, it looks pretty.
And so we just stuck it under there. Don't pay any attention to the fuel leak.
Oh, I
forgot to put a plug in the top of the fuel tank.
Oh.
Went to the hardware store this morning, got one.
And you have a bell?
Train bell. I'm not a big fan of train horns. I have grown up my entire life on the Chicago, St. Louis, Union Pacific now, but was the Illinois Central Railroad. And so all my life I've listened to train horns. But one day there was an Amtrak leaving the station and I heard this bell. I'm like, is that? Ran out, saw what it was. I'm like, oh, I got to have me one of those.
No horns, but I'll take a bell.
Yep.
When something's a little bit different, it makes you look.
Yeah.
Can we take a look inside?
Yep. Probably a little dirty in there
Oh,
from
it's
the trip up.
pretty though. Original interior?
Completely original, other than these are 379 door cards.
Hat holder even.
Yep, and that is original, not the hat, but the holder. The guy that we bought it from, this truck was named Bull Shipper. He obviously was a cattle hauler, so we felt we needed to leave the hat or leave a hat holder in there, and
Is the cheese original?
just from our many trips up here. When we built this truck, what I'd had in my mind was, remember riding in the early 80s when we had pretty much internationals at the time, but riding up to La Crosse Brewery or Detroit Brewery or Hams up in St. Paul with my dad and seeing all these, especially La Crosse, you'd see all these Wyland trucks and these Martin trucks hauling beer, and they all had these 359s, and they just looked so cool. And we were in this little old international, and it made more money because I had less payments, but I just always wanted a 359 with that 80s California cool look, the turbo wings and the rookie sticks, as the guys call them.
As I look at your two sticks, I know you said it has two sticks, but what's the engine, transmission, and all that?
So it's a 400 Cummins and then a 10 and a 4. It's not an original 2-stick truck. It's a 4-speed Brownie behind a 10-speed.
Air conditioner work?
Yep.
If you could pick one favorite aspect of this, other than the fact you always wanted a California cool 80s Peterbilt.
Probably the train bell. It's unique. So people see that or hear it, especially, and then they've got to see it.
So how many times does this get to come out annually?
It depends on the year, but we usually get it out for a couple local shows. We always bring it up here to Wisconsin. 20 years now.
Oh, wow.
Like next weekend, we're going to touch a truck with it. We'll take this one. We've got a 1970 little window. We'll take it and one of the newer, more modern Freightliners.
Oh, is that a rest for your foot here?
Yep. And believe it or not, it makes a heck of a difference.
Really?
For a big guy in a 359, you can flip it up and stretch your leg out, or you can flip it back down and rest your boot there. I can't take credit for that. Scott Worth, that we bought it from, he's the one that came up with that.